July Independence Day holiday. We'll get right to things. Approval of minutes.
Move to approve.
Motion and a second to approve the minutes. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. Bills. Full list of bills in everybody's packets. We have a couple additional that Candy had just distributed, reentry center and law enforcement center. $115,408.08 for the law enforcement center. Reentry was $7,055.
There's some on the highway list,
And there's some on the highway list.
three motions later.
We have a motion, do we have a second? Motion and a second, roll call please.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Volk,
Aye.
Lightcon.
Aye.
Brett.
Aye. Bills are paid. Financials. Anybody have an opportunity to financials?
We have a letter of transfer to approve later from the law enforcement center.
Anybody have any questions on the financials, any additions or corrections?
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve the financials, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the financials, roll call please.
Volk.
Aye.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Lightcon.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Brett.
Aye. Financials approved, treasurer's checks. Motion and a second to approve the treasurer's checks. Roll call.
Brown.
Aye.
Volk.
Aye.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Lightcon.
Aye.
Brett.
Aye. Any additions or corrections to the agenda for today?
Make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Agenda is approved. You want to stick by the times, or are we good to keep on rolling?
If they're here, we can.
All right. First up on the agenda this morning is Lisa Deeseth, treasurer.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I guess everything is about the same if you look at the treasures. We did the increase that was for wages that came from Candy, the little grant. The only thing that went up was technology, and that bill is coming from our IT person's fee. So that's the only thing that went up. Any questions?
Looks really good.
And then I have the superintendent of schools. And that is about the same. And I haven't heard of any school closing, so we'll just play it by ear.
Did Mr. Moe explain what the increase in technology was for?
I am not sure. Candy, can you help me with that? Do we know what the increase was? I mean, he kind of just breaks it down, so everybody, how many computers we have, he manages them, and that's what he,
Some of the cost is having like that VPN.
On the last page of the budget here, you guys break down, so it's amount of computers times $768, and then you have to pay for remote access.
right,
So it's essentially covering what the VPN would be plus stuff. All of the management packages that go with each computer.
You want $200, is that what it is, Lisa?
yes. I rounded it off, but it was like give or take $5 or $10, so I just rounded it off.
It's not as much as the gas cost, is it?
No. Like, he can probably explain more too of what's going on.
Well, I mean,
You know,
I mean, that's just easy to do.
I have an additional charge for like Adobe bills, so there's a little difference.
I wonder why, something that's spread over all the departments isn't put in the IT budget itself.
it would be easier.
And then whatever specialized software a department would need would come out of that department's budget.
Right.
But, oh well, I guess it all comes out of general anyway, so. Any questions for Lisa?
I think it looks good.
Thank
Lisa.
you. Thanks, have a good day.
Beverly Buckmeyer, Recorder's Office. Good morning.
Good morning. The only change I can see is, I kind of went off what Katie had last year for the budget. Our Endrin account will probably be around 25,000 instead of 30,000. Just kind of estimating of, what should be coming in probably about 2 months, and then in January again. Other than that, same as Lisa, the technology thing is the only thing that really changed, and wages.
Any questions for Bev? Any questions of us, Bev?
Not that I can think of, I can kind of let you know what I plan on doing this in 2022. We're in the process of validating our documents from 1979 to current. With being as busy as we have been this past 6 months, it's been very difficult to get much done on that. We do have our recertification of our passport agents. We're waiting to hear from Minneapolis if they're actually gonna hold them physically, or if we're gonna have to do it online again. We have been recertified for our facility online. We're looking at trying to get somebody in here to do it physically, so that someone from Minneapolis comes and stays in our office where they watch and see how we handle the passport situations. One of the projects I was also looking at is, since our mortgages are now in our system, they're just scanned in the images, looking at possibly talking to some companies or individuals about indexing our documents from 1979 back to 1882. That's a big project. It might incur some expense, but that would be vendor money that we've used. Trying to keep a balance on that, not spend all the money, but still try to get back. We have had research companies come in. Yes, well, the images are there, but there's nothing in our software. It's difficult for us to search and them to search. So hoping to get that done. Well, that's gonna be years to get that done because it's like 170,000 documents. I'm hoping to need to get some of that started.
Be pretty cool once it's done though.
It would be,
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Any other questions for Bev? Budget looks good, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Beth,
Good morning.
good morning.
My only changes were also wages and ITS presented to me. Other than that, everything was the same.
Any questions for Beth?
Beth, you probably told me about this before, but between 2020 and 2021, on your service contracts line item, why did that go from 60,000 to 10?
That was the commercial evaluation.
Oh, okay, sure, and so we were done with that. Got it. Makes perfect sense. You see what-
Right, yeah.
Not that much.
Anything else for Beth? Beth, anything else for us?
No.
Thank you so much for coming in. Thank you. Mr. Jagger, Emergency Management.
Okay, under the emergency management budget, changes are of course the salary. The technology, but another change I put in was the emergency operations center. Just to give you guys a heads up, we're looking, I've been talking with Stone's Mobile Radio. We're looking at replacing a radio head or a head unit. So I put a little bit more money into there, hopefully, hoping that will at least get the operations center back to what we should do or should be at. And then they're gonna work some telephone lines around that. If you want, we can go on to the hazardous chemical. There's a bigger changes on that one. Hazardous, what's that?
Go ahead.
Okay, hazardous chemical, the biggest change was training. There's a few trainings I'd like to go to. Of course, they come, a little bit of money. If you look back to 2019, some of that, budget was quite high, or actual money spent was used. So that's the big change with that one. And then risk management, just the salary aspect, that was it.
The page is risk management.
Which page? Oh,
I don't know if we have their risk management yet.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's in there.
14.
Page 14.
Does anyone remember, did we say 2% in step of what we were recommending? 3% in step? There we go.
Yes.
Anybody have any questions for Chris regarding the budget that he has submitted?
So just out of curiosity, make sure I'm doing my math right. Does 3% in the step equal 14%? Because by my math, the salary line item for 2022 is 14% higher than 2021.
I put, some negotiations on income on there, but I figured I was gonna be at a different hearing. Just to make sure
What did you put on this?
is that grand total, I don't know if that was,
Well, I'm just looking at this number here that's off on the right
Oh,
side, where you
sure.
have all these other numbers, 60,816.
that was,
If you divide that by 53,000, that's 14% more.
I just put in some negotiations and where I wanted to start, and that never had, I don't wanna get too deep into detail today, but I just wanted to make sure there was some budgetary items, or the money was there to at least ask for something better.
So you're telling me that if you get 53,000 approximately this year and you asking for 60 for next year, is that what you're telling me?
That's where I'd like, when I first started, that's where I tried starting at.
You started the job, you mean?
Yes, sir. And it was supposed to be under review after 6 months, and it never worked out. That was something I talked with Crystal about, and Crystal, when she was here,
Okay.
and it never came full circle to get kind of closer to where I wanted to start at. And
To my knowledge, this is totally news to me, I know that. I don't know about the rest of the commission.
Yes.
Well, I know Chris had talked to me about his salary and the increases that he'd like to see. And what, I think I had mentioned, go ahead, put it in, we can negotiate as we move through. I think Chris has done an exceptional job throughout this past, pandemic. And, gone through an awful lot of additional training requirements that have gone along with that. And whether or not we can afford or justify that raise, yet to be seen. As everybody knows, this is a preliminary budget. And that I think there are changes to be made in the HR stuff about raises are not a guarantee, but based upon performance evaluation, so. That's all.
I'm not necessarily trying to stir the pot, I was just curious to know, everybody else is doing their 3% a step, and wanted to know why there was a discrepancy is all.
That would be it. And that's something that maybe Brian can delve into, and I know he's jumped in with both feet and then some. And maybe reevaluate some of our salaries and make sure that we are within line with the market. I think that's something the city of Devils Lake just did, found out that some of their people were being overpaid and some of them were grossly underpaid, and I think they're gonna make some adjustments supporting that. But whether or not we fall in those lines, I'm not sure, but it's certainly possible. I think that's something that Crystal was gonna work on. Our previous HR individual. But, probably been a while since we've taken a look at that. Protect our most important asset, and that's our employees.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
can I mention one more thing about that step and grade? After 25 steps, from 20 to 25, I think you get a 0.5% increase. After 25 steps, you don't get any increase. That's kind of unfair. I think there's only like 4, maybe 5 employees that.
he topped out at the.
And the problem is now I have a 28-step person and a 24-step person. And the way it works out, now the 24-step person is gonna be making more money than the 28-step person because they stepped out earlier. So just something to look at.
But the 28-step guy is still gonna get the living costs, right?
Right. But as it works out, the 24 went ahead of the 28 because they stepped out.
And the reason that happened is because all the, like, state employees now, they went on this, when they do evaluations, it was supposed to be based off your evaluations and not the step, and that's where all that got messed up across the state. So we're seeing that a lot with the state employees. And the fix to it, I don't know, because you are seeing a new employee coming in and passing some people that are already on step 10, because the steps went up, but once they got to here, it didn't go up.
Well, and just so that I understand it, I was always under the assumption that the step was the performance-based raise. Is that not correct? The cost of living, everybody would get, but that theoretically, the step is the performance pay increase.
Well, a lot of the steps go by time. So if you get 5, let's say you got 5 years and you automatically go to the next step. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's a lot of it, how it went.
The step does go by time, but it's up to the department head to make sure they get that step.
They can still deny it.
Positive review.
Correct.
Right,
So that's the performance-based increase.
Right, he's saying once you get to step 25, there's no more steps.
Well, we used to have, what, 20, I believe, at one point in time? And we stretched to 25. I think it would be reasonable to look and see if we could either stretch it or come up with some type of situation where we can make sure that the people that are at the top of the steps just don't go backwards.
Well, it's not that they're going backwards.
Well, they're just, but they're just capped out at the system. I mean, and that's not the intent of the system, or at least I don't think that's our intent. So it's just a matter of trying to figure out how to make it work fairly.
But most jobs are capped out, and it's just the living cost rate. But what he's saying is they're getting living costs and they're getting the steps, so it's capturing them quicker and higher.
Just something to look at.
Do we have a scenario where the base starting wage has been raised over the years where this employee that's still getting step increase, they may even started at a higher increase than employee that's over 25 years, so just things will never line up unless you make adjustments with your long-term employees also.
The thing is, the adjustments are hard to make because if you look at how the steps work and how the increases are, if you would do that, some employees would jump to $150,000, right? And there's no way that we can ever budget that. Just the way the math works out.
I think that's the part of the market study every so often.
Right.
So that's something we can take a look at as we move through the budget process. But for today, I want to thank Chris for bringing in this budget. We also have under Chris, drought discussion. I think despite what we're receiving for precipitation today, I think we've sort of categorized in a severe drought situation, and whether or not a local county emergency drought declaration would be prudent. I see some other counties around us have taken that step, and I asked Chris to look into it, and the benefits of doing so would be,
Would just be opening up the local emergency money. So if you wanted to spend our local emergency money before the state fund kick, would be the only difference. Since it's a state declared, we don't have to file. So we're already covered under the state. It's just if we want to spend our local emergency money first. And because it would be coming from the ag department, it kind of doesn't completely fit. Completely.
alright. So, but I asked Chris to check into that, and thought we could bring it up for a discussion, point anyway, since, Chris is gonna be here and that our ongoing drought continues. If that's any action that the commission would like to take, we can certainly have Chris draw up any emergency drought declarations with Ramsey County and get that approved, and, but I'm not sure if there's exactly any benefits. I think, as Chris indicated, we're both under a state and a federal drought declaration. It's been since early April.
Well, can I ask you a quick question? When the state declares a emergency for drought, does that unlock FEMA dollars then?
That's what they're trying for.
They're trying to, okay. There's nothing that has been there yet.
What other counties have made the declaration?
I think Nelson County was the last one that I remembered. I don't know exactly how many counties have actually went with it though. If you give me a few minutes here, I can take a quick look.
I think it's on that ND response page.
So I'm gonna pull up.
So,
Maybe it would make sense.
Well, I mean, I'm not opposed to it. It's just, what are we gaining from,
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, just being able to spend our local dollars, but I mean,
So once in a while, that opens up fund money for NRCS or something like that too.
I think it's worth diving into a little bit more to see if there's any benefit.
Absolutely.
It doesn't hurt to do it. More risk. Yeah, more risk, yeah. Just by declaring it doesn't mean we have to spend our money first versus the states or the, not like that. Never hurts to know the cost of benefits.
would you like Chris to, draw something up for us, or,
Yeah, we should do that, I think.
I think it's good.
I don't know, it won't hurt nothing, piece of paper, probably.
I'll do it.
See what happens. There's a hell of a lot of drought damage. Like, for receiving it. With a better attitude for people, I think,
A lot of the damage is kind of already done.
Yeah, I'll draw that up for you guys.
thank you.
But
Anything else, Chris? Anything else from the commissioners for Chris? Thank you.
thanks.
Moving on, Mr. Moll, Steve, IT, GIS.
Yes. Okay, yes, the budgets are same as last year, except the recommended increase in salary. One item that, yes, our server is approaching 5 years old now, which is usually replacement age when you start thinking about replacing it, but it's working well. So I've just extended the warranty another year, so I guess next year we'll probably be looking at adding that to the budget again, for a replacement. But
What kind of money are you looking for that?
it was around 10,000 for the physical machine. Maybe twice that now, I guess, to get everything transferred. But I guess that's a year and a half away to think about.
Steve, we see a lot in the headlines with cybersecurity threats. How confident are you in the security in the county's IT stuff?
Fairly confident. It's, I guess, there's always a risk. I wouldn't say anything's 100%. The stuff that we've done in the last year, I guess, year and a half, 2 years, but moving everyone to the States, more secure email and onto their office plan. And being on the state network and with their virus protections, I think we're getting more and more secure.
Let me ask you this question, Steve. Is there anything that we should do ourselves, do you think? I mean, you're the knowledgeable one, so.
Yeah, well,
no matter what it costs.
think the thing would be to go backwards and unplug everything from the internet and just have one person sit at the
I'll make that
console.
Costs. I mean, the costs are getting just laughable. I mean, everything.
Well, the costs of the ransomware that they'll put on too are.
Oh, I know, yeah, they're crazy.
Go buy some Dogecoin or some Bitcoin or something.
Grab
Get your information back.
Steve, is there, do you think there's any risk of the tenants that are in our building that are on separate networks, cross contamination kind of thing? You know, because there's several tenants within our building that are not on the county system. Is there any potential risk there, do you think?
I could see some, but that's mainly physical security, I guess, where
Sure.
somebody leaves their desk and somebody else walks the address. But there, I wouldn't say never to any situation, I guess.
Were we doing cloud-based backup right now? For the server?
Not directly, I guess.
I remember talking about it at one point in time, but I remember the costs were pretty.
Definitely started doing backups. Would it be possible to own another server that's only occasionally connected? So in other words, like you would connect it once a month to take a backup of everything that exists, and then you unplug it, so that at most you're only losing, say, a month's worth of all the county's information, which is a lot, but it's not as bad as.
Yeah, they steal it, you're like, okay, here you go, we got our own.
Yeah, that's what we're currently doing. We've got, take several hard drives. I do a backup every week, every Friday night to then take
So
that.
you do a
And then I
backup of
take that
everything.
one home, so in case the courthouse would burn down.
Okay.
We have it physically backed up, so if somebody came after us with a ransomware attack, we would never be more than a week out then, basically.
Hopefully, yeah, it's just one of those things where now you hear the ransomware where they hang out for a few months and then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
your backups might be.
No,
If they're,
they're altering stuff inside.
Other counties doing that too?
yeah, then it's all, most I would imagine are doing similar things. And yeah, we've got other backup devices that are taking more frequent backups every few hours and saving things longer. So, yeah, I think there's plenty of backups. I guess could always be more, you can always find situations where.
Well, and, additional physical backups and cloud backups and stuff are okay too, but even when it's in the cloud, there has to be a server someplace backing something up. I know we got into that issue, not ransom or anything like that, but when the power grid went down in Texas, with the county housing authority, all of our backup from us physically went to servers in Texas and also servers on the East Coast somewhere for double backup, and they lost power in both places. So we were down for 2 days or 3 days because they physically didn't have power there. So it's you try your best, like you said. You just try your best to make it as manageable as you can, I guess. Hopefully nobody comes and locks our computers up.
And, yeah, I am having a meeting with the state security consultant today. That since we're on their email and office plan, it should allow us to have some more specialized training, specific training that, since all of the state users are using it, they can allow us to run the same training.
It's becoming a bigger and bigger deal, so appreciate you staying on top of it. I think some of those numbers that ITD presented on that Trojan horses or the ransomwares or the potential cyber attacks that they have, that they interrupt on a daily basis at the state level, is just mind blowing. How many times people are trying to access from outside networks. Yeah, so certainly a big concern with all that goes on and the number of computers that we have in and out of here, so thank you. Any further questions for Steve? Anything further for us, Steve?
No, I guess just if the increase in the technology for all the other departments, that was just an increase from the states. The Microsoft plan, everyone else, if everyone needs the VPN, like I guess we needed the last year. That type of thing.
Cost of doing business.
Yeah.
Do you find that beneficial to put that on the department's budgets, or is that something that should be on the IT budget?
I see it both ways, I guess. Previously, all of the departments, this is just because they moved to a subscription-based plan instead of a one-time purchase, which all of the departments used to do. You just pay $400 for Microsoft Office when you buy a computer. Now it's $22 a month forever, I guess. And I guess it was an opportunity, I guess, for every department to know their costs and not have to involve me if they were thinking of hiring a new person or they didn't meet, or the plan down the road where if I want this extra piece, rather than halfway through the years asking me. And then if I don't have the money, what do I say?
Well, I guess the way I see it is kind of picking nits either way, right? It's all the money's coming from the same place.
We're paying for it somehow.
Right. Well, thanks, Steve.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Crosby, Veteran service, how are you responding? Thank you for coming in. Page 33 in the budget book is the VSO budget for 2022. You see the county breakdowns. We share Bryce with Benson and Nelson counties. Benson getting 22%, Nelson 18%. That is an office that is quite busy.
Yeah, every time I come in, I see you're in with somebody that's a lot of work. Out of curiosity, what was the last time we updated these percentages? Was that recently?
When we set up the split, did we do it since then?
No, the percentages changed.
Did we update them again? Because we wanted them to update pretty regularly, if I remember the way we set it up.
The college.
Couple years.
Yeah.
Like when you started.
Because it was just the number of veterans.
Awesome.
Bryce started.
Okay, that's it.
Okay, that's good to know. Just curious.
That's gotta make sure we're paying for sure.
If she gave you the budget I was looking at, I had a substantial increase in the salary on there, but I can lose the insurance, which would give the county several $1,000s, in funds back. And what I'm trying to do is get my own salary more commensurate with what the other counties are doing. If I look at the counties that are both above me and below me in veteran populations, not only is their salary substantially higher, but they have like 2 personnel in their VSO office. And I don't really need the insurance. I'm actually tripled up with both the TRICARE, VA, and then Blue Cross Blue Shield would be my 3rd insurance.
So the correct budget that we're looking at is not the one on 33, it's the one on the page behind 33?
The one, well, I put in 2 because I wasn't sure,
Which one we would want.
yes.
I appreciate that. So basically, this second one, where we're going from 45 to 57, you're justifying based on.
Yeah, based on,
the cost of insurance.
well, yeah, the cost of insurance, yes, you would get back under, if you look at the fixed charges, you would drop again too, so the total amount for the veteran service would be a savings for the county for $12,000.
Yeah.
But again, and I don't mean to blackmail the county with my insurance, but again, I think when I look at the wages that I get every year from Lonnie Wangan from the North Dakota Veterans Affairs, and I can see what my peers are making, I also don't want to be taken advantage of either.
Sure.
So, and I did have an increase of $183,000 in compensation payments within the last year to Ramsey County. So,
Yeah, no one doubts that you're doing the work that you're doing.
What paper are we looking at?
So here, this proposal.
Yeah, I got that. Which one do you want?
33B.
We're on 57.6, okay?
Yes.
Looks like it's the question. You don't want no insurance.
no, I don't need it.
Well, that's it, Andy. Approximately.
What it says on here.
$12,000, right?
Yeah, that's right here under fixed charges. See how it's going down to
But
the.
sure, the cost is about 22 grand. Excuse me.
What kind of suggestion taken under consideration?
Looking at $11,000 for salary, but you're also saving $12 on the other side.
I can give you the data too from the NDVA too, to show you what.
That'd be helpful.
I think it'd be good to have it for this.
The one question I have, relationship with the other two counties is going well.
Yes, yep, yeah.
You've met with their commissions sometimes
I met with, Benson County, I haven't met with Nelson County yet.
for the whole year you haven't met.
No, no,
I would schedule a meeting. You know, get familiar with you. They have a interest in this,
yes, yep,
so. Benson you've met with.
oh, yes, yep.
Just so they know where you're standing also. Absolutely.
I think as a commission, we're very interested in keeping this agreement with the other counties in place.
Yeah, during the budget thing last year, that's why I missed it, because then Benson County had asked me first, so I'd scheduled with them. So, because all the county commissions meet at the same time.
8 o'clock in the morning. Everyone in North Dakota.
You can't be in 3 places at once. Come on.
Today's technology.
I mean, we can zoom in, we can all be together.
No, just keep a good working relationship. As we work with them on other projects in the counties too, so.
Yeah.
Anything else for Bryce this morning? Bryce, anything else for us?
No, sir.
All right, thank you so much for coming, Bryce.
Thank you.
Mr. Singer.
Yes, good morning. Thank you, everybody, for the opportunity, by the way. Do our best, I guess, so.
I'm not sure if, you've met all the commissioners yet. Have you had the opportunity?
Not personally, but
Yeah. So Brian is the new HR coordinator here in the county, hired and started working in June, I think. About a month ago, maybe.
9th, I think it was the starting date.
Yeah, so, and he's, like I said before, he's hit the ground running and he's, made a very good impression of the people that he's dealing with, so. And, we'll go through his budget and then I think he has some other things on the agenda as well.
Sure, so Candy, appreciate it, she helped me with the budget, it was my first one, just a couple weeks in, so. Really, pretty much just copied, what was out the last year, pay increase, IT increase. We did a little increase in miscellaneous and employee training, I kind of foreseed myself. I'm trying to wrap my head around the county, the government part of all this HR stuff, so I've been soaking up a lot of webinars recently too, and just talking to everybody, just trying to get a feel for that. So I had a increase in the training, foresee doing it a little bit more than maybe it's been done in the last couple of years. So that's my budget. Candy could add anything. She, like I said, she kind of helped me set this up. It's a pretty simple budget, I guess, in my office.
Feel like you're hitting the ground running?
Yeah, we've had a couple of little tiny fires we've already had to put out. So got the no bowl on my first day. So, but he was great to work with. So we've been, after that, it's been just learning the building, the people, the makeup of, the social services, and, not everybody in the building's county employee, so to speak. It's just trying to wrap your head around all that stuff. But so far, so good. It's been good. Good. Appreciate the opportunity.
Any questions about Brian's budget? We also have Brian here to discuss some changes in the employee handbook, some policy changes that have been recommended.
Not really policy changes, it's kind of some language changes. I just cleaned a couple of things up that I'd like to clean up. I'm not sure what order you have them in front of you, but the one titled work schedules, it was just kind of, it wasn't clear that it was a full 7 24-hour periods for the work week, so we just wanted to clean up some of the language there. It seems to look a lot better. That one looks good. And then vacation benefits, there was some confusion with employees and even I think a couple supervisors when that increase would happen for the vacation hours per month. And I think we've had some employees get that increase at the beginning of their 5-year or at their 5-year anniversary, not the completion of their 5-year anniversary. So they were essentially getting it a year earlier. So there was a statement in a paragraph above the graph or above the schedule, but what I just want to do is just add some verbiage into the actual schedule of the graph. That's the completion of year 5 going forward. And then we just want to bold out that specific sentence too right above it. Again, I'm not sure you guys got those proposed changes in front of you, so kind of shows that. And then you guys were talking about the step structure a little earlier, and I just wanted to add a little, and actually this was a suggestion from Bo, just to go ahead and wanted to add a little description of what a step structure is. I'll be honest, I've been in HR for a while. I didn't even know what it was when I started, but it makes sense once you see it. So I just wanted to add that we do base our performance evaluations and our wage increase on a budget, but we use that step structure to set your salaries going forward. So it is my understanding that from Candy that we have used the step structure as a tool to get better performance out of employees. If they're due a 3%, that if you're not a top employee, maybe you would receive 2%. Or I've been under the understanding that maybe it had been held for a small amount of time until that employee completed their corrective performance improvement plan, and then maybe had gotten their step structure maybe a little bit later in the year too. So, and then there was a spot in our employee manual that actually says step structure, but there's no description to it about starting salaries. So I just added a really simple, I guess, definition of a step structure in there. So if anybody has any questions on that. Like I said, not really policy changes, just kind of some cleanup of some words.
Some verbiage.
Yeah. The only question I had, excuse me, when looking at it was on the 7 24-hour period workday, and then you changed the stopping time and the starting time, correct?
Right.
But the only thing I had a question on, and maybe I'm not knowing exactly what I'm talking about, but I remember at one point in time we talked about the sheriff's department needing to have certain times for when they had clock in, clock out stuff for to count a week. Am I remembering something completely different that we had a discussion about?
I remember that.
I'm just sort of curious. For some reason that previously we had a discussion with the sheriff about, or I remember having this discussion about HR about when the week had to start versus stop, or how they counted the hours because they are on a different clock thing or something like that. It's 186 hours or something like that. The one thread, I can't remember what it was, but it came in my mind when I was reading it, and as long as it's okay to chat with that, it's fine. I mean, I think all the changes look good, so.
We can check with.
I just wanted to make sure it didn't
Right.
screw up something where he was timekeeping or something like that.
You gotta have the variance there.
Yeah, it had something to do with the amount of hours allowed and how they clocked hours for weeks and things like that. I can't remember what it was. I can't remember because they have a certain specific, can't remember, there's a name for it, but I can't remember what the name is on the top of my head.
Remember we talked about it.
It might not have been in a commission meeting, it might have been in some other venue, I don't remember, but.
Mr. Chairman, this is our, the department heads review those or you too.
Absolutely. We'll distribute these proposed changes to the department heads for review. Bring back at our 20th. So review them and approve them on the 20th, so.
Yeah, they all look good, just as long as the department has cleared and everything's okay.
I can forward those out.
Otherwise, I think your budget looks good.
Thank you.
Did we, wanna jump down to the portion of your new business with, since Brian's here, about the joint powers agreement with District Health on HR? The one thing I did notice in there that, it's based upon the old hours of the previous HR individual, that, shall perform 16 hours of service for Ramsey County and 2 to 3 hours of service for District Health. I think your hours are different, so that may want to change that. Now, and I think number one, it should be full-time instead of part-time.
Then we have to specify hours, what hours work for the county, I mean, can't we just say that the individual's a full-time employee of the county and will be contracted to District Health for 2 to 3 hours per week?
I think so. I think that simplifies things.
Yes.
Or just shall perform services for.
Then put hours on as social service needs them, right? Under this agreement also, or what?
I think we should have a separate agreement with.
Should be a separate one.
Because that way, if one of them broke, they don't both break.
Well, that on top of the fact that I think that an agreement with social services would be separate simply because they are county employees versus District Health are our employees. Right? So they're kind of quasi, since there is a separate subdivision. But I do agree with you, though. I think it's reasonable to ask social services if we should have some type of an agreement, just because we are seeing if the state would do some type of a functional payment for us.
Just so they, well, just so they come back and say, well, it's great.
Yeah, and another thing, is we're dealing with other counties, so we want to make sure we have something in place. You know, they understand, we understand. I don't believe states.
No, I think we're probably working on a tree that we're not gonna get anything else.
Should we,
Or would you rather have to keep track of where?
Well, I think it's good to keep track of where the hours are going regardless, obviously, but I mean, I think in specifics for this agreement, I mean, I think that was from public health, they were putting in the 2 to 3 hours just so they knew, you know, this is kind of what we're expecting, an expectation.
So are we ready to approve this with the amendments?
Yep.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
motion?
You don't need to change it anymore.
I don't think so.
Well, I would say too, I'll second the motion, as well as just double checking, making sure that District Health is okay with it, and making sure that Bo doesn't have any, issues with it. Just have states to over District Health, but with the game.
Okay.
If that's okay with the maker.
Well, yeah, I mean, presumably District Health will have to be okay with it if they sign it or not, right?
Yeah.
So-
Right.
And I
This
just
is
made, I just
what
made
we're
them
giving
aware
you.
that we needed to redo because of the
Yes,
position.
yes.
Through social service, same way. As soon as you get this.
Yep.
If they want to hire them, they can, the other county.
All right. We have a motion to approve the joint powers agreement between Ramsey County and Lake Region District Health HR services with the changes indicated upon a review and approval from the state's attorney and from Lake Region District Health Board of Directors. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Say, Mr. Chairman, Say, I forgot to say one thing about my budget. Just to let you guys know that half my budget is covered by the state. The state pays half. Just wanna make sure that you're aware of that.
That's a good thing.
Thank God.
So, next up, we have the Lake Region Public Library. Their budget. And
Yeah, he backed out.
backed out.
Yeah, it's all right.
Okay,
Forgot to take that out. Next agenda.
next agenda.
Okay.
So,
It's in our budget, so we can look at it.
Yeah,
It's in our budget.
yeah, it's in there, so.
see, we're running ahead of schedule. We had Sheriff Nelson on at 9:30. We'll jump up to Mr. Fieldson and highway departments.
All right,
report.
I'll start out with the work of the projects we got going on now, the paver patches. I don't remember if I explained this at the last meeting, but where we put the culvert in on 8th, that got fixed, and then by in Brockett, Wagner, Miller Hardware, there's a spot there we fixed. We haven't done the ones on 3 yet, but they're gonna come back. I might have explained that before. I can't be here. And our chip seal project, that is complete now. We don't have the stripes painted yet, but I did contact the paint outfit and they're gonna work it into their schedule. And I did not get the invoice for that project yet, so. And the graveling, Turnback 17, that was completed yesterday. So that's all done. And no invoice there either. So any questions on the projects that we're doing? We're gonna start tearing out bridges this week. We're getting our rental equipment today, and we'll be starting this week. Ourselves.
Can you remind us again of where that chip seal project was?
It was from Hamden south to 17. And we did a little piece for Hamden to town. And then we'll bill them for what they did, we did for them, but it was just a little bit wider on the shoulders and the main line. And also Ramsey 9 from 4 all the way to the county line. I think there's 10 miles there. And the sign, some of the signs are down now, but the no center site signs are still up. So as soon as we get the strike, we'll take those down. Any other questions on projects we got going?
Making progress.
Yeah. Okay, for our motions, the first one, we got the final invoice for the thin left overlay on Ramsey County 2 and Elks Drive from the state for our share of the match money. And their total for the two, for all the thin left project was $33,522.71. And that's gonna be the final payment now. And also, along with that, there's a sheet that goes with that project that we have to explain where we got our match money from. In other words, we didn't get it from another federal pot of money, so there has to be a signature for the chairman and the auditor to sign that.
Move to approve. Vote.
Move to approve the invoice, so we're paying that, correct?
That's correct.
And that the chairman auditor signed the letter stating that, where we got our matching money from. Since we're paying that, you want to roll call, Candy?
Yes, please. Volk.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Lightfon.
Aye.
Wakefield.
Aye.
Rick.
Aye.
The second one, we got the culverts, to replace the two rusted out culverts in Sullivan Township, section 2122. They were 5 footers, big ones. They were put in probably 25 years ago, so it must be some hot soil there, but they were rusted out. And the cost of those two culverts is $12,797. Need a motion to pay for that. So,
Second. We have a motion, we have a second to replace the culverts in Sullivan Township. $12,797. Roll call, please.
Brown.
Aye.
Volk. Lightfon.
Aye.
Wakefield.
Aye.
Brett.
Aye.
okay, moving down, Ironhide has gave us an invoice for the rental of the skid steer when we fixed our soft spots for 3 weeks. They actually gave us a deal and gave us a monthly charge instead of a 3-week charge. So the invoice for that was $3,264.
Move it,
Moved and approved to pay the Ironhide rental for the skid steer. Roll call, please.
Lightfon.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Volk.
Aye.
Wakefield.
Aye.
Brett.
Aye.
Okay, next we got the second rental tractor from Leading Edge, and cost for the entire rental period is $4,977.50. Same as the first one. This is our second one.
We're paying that.
Yes.
Motion.
Motion and a second to approve the rental tractor payment to Leading Edge. Roll call.
Volk.
Aye.
Wakefield.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Lightfon. Brett.
Aye.
We also got the bill for the Magwater, or the dust percent that we put on all the county roads. That invoice was $10,578.10, and I'd like to motion to pay that.
So moved.
Motion and a second to approve the Water payment, $10,578.10. Roll call, please.
Brown.
Aye.
Volk. Wakefield.
Aye.
Lightfon.
Aye.
Brett.
Aye.
The last one, Strata has an invoice for the overlay patches that were completed. That total was $11,694.33.
Yeah.
Motion and a second to approve the paper patches to Strata. $11,694.33, is that correct?
Pounds.
So that's pounds. So, yeah, that should be the dollars though.
Oh.
I'm just sorry. Pounds.
Pounds of
Pounds,
dollars.
yeah. In pounds.
It's a great finger.
If we're being breaking
And the exchange rate is
Yeah,
favorable.
we got 11,000 pounds of gold, we better not.
The dollar sign is right below the 4, so once in a while we're getting a 4 there.
Roll call, please.
Wakefield.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Volk. Lightfon.
Aye.
Brett.
Aye. Motion carries.
So I didn't get the invoices for our chip seal project or the graveling, which was just done, so they may present that at the next meeting, but chip seal project's around 300,000, so. Everybody wanted his money. Just ahead of. That's all I have.
Do we have in your list of highway bills, Morris Seal quote and trucking,
I did not see that.
$312,540.24.
Okay, I was not aware. I was on last week, so
Okay,
maybe we should have a motion to pay that too.
we can do that.
I did, before I went on vacation, I did check the totals, and our totals matched how much oil we use, how much rock we use, so the totals are
Correct.
Well, we're on else, a motion outstanding simply for that one then. Okay, I'll make a motion that we get this approved.
Motion and second that we pay, seal board, $312,540.24. Total on that.
Looked like I did a nice job like that.
Yeah, it was,
I didn't drive on it, but I was able to, when I saw that,
Roll call, please.
Wakefield.
Aye.
Volk.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Lightfon.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye. Anything else you got?
no, that's all I got.
Thank you very much.
Of course, they got 3 inches of rain where we're tearing bridges out, so. Never fails. We got 3. Way up in the corner of Towner, Cavalier, Ramsey, we got 3 inches.
should have started tearing bridges up in April.
Saturday.
When everybody else got to have here. We got an inch here.
Must have been Saturday.
Saturday afternoon. Yeah, we got inch and a half.
Wisconsin is a little spot, but reports it hit 2 bridges.
Let's see. Water Resource Board, they, looking to come in. Or, we could allow, Karen, did you have anything for us this morning? Who's that? Oh, sweet. Only had 1,600 on Saturday.
Yeah, that's what he said, he only had a tenth square inch and a half. Imagine,
I couldn't believe how much rain that down there got over the puddle. You can't believe it.
So Candy's checking with Sheriff Nelson, make sure that he's not too busy to come in.
Should I check with the water board?
If you wanna check with the water board, let them know that we're ready for them. Greatly appreciate it.
And how much rain did you guys get? And how much rain did you get?
I think we got a 3/4 inch Saturday. Farther south. You can get it, yeah, did I already ask this? First said, hey, we'll go get that.
Oh, yeah,
I wasn't.
yeah, I'm pretty good on it.
Did you get half?
A little bit, but not something that would be, not for anything, little pea size.
That's about what we got in town there for 20, 30 cents.
Ours did last one, probably 4 or 5.
So, well, got a quick update on the Edmore Cooley project that we have going on. We do have the ballots out to the landowners right now. They started going out last week. We have informational meetings up in Hamden and Cavalier will have one in Tacoma on the same day on the 8th. So that'll be coming up this weekend.
It's Edmore, isn't it? Double deuce?
Yes.
Yeah, not Hamden.
Right. And so we'll have the meetings there. That'll, so at this point, they're gonna be handled mainly by the engineer. So the water board will be there to show our support for the project and answer any questions we can. But at this point, it's the engineer will be handling most of the stuff up there. So right now, it's got figured out that we'll be asking for about $13 an acre for is what the projected cost is going to be. We're intending to have it built out over 7 years if it passes. So it's not really a very big cost per person compared to a lot of the projects that are done in the state. So we're trying to make it fairly reasonable for everybody to handle it. But we do 7 years at 4%, or they do have the option of, if somebody wants to come in and pay off a lump sum, they discuss it, they can do that too.
So I have 2 questions that I'm relaying from a farmer who asked me. The first one was, that apparently Identiforce didn't get one, but on these ballots, there's no identifying information on what land is involved, so is every farmer that has land at all just gets a vote, is that correct, or is it done by parcel, how is that done?
They get a vote per parcel.
Per parcel?
Yep.
Okay, so according to this farmer, there were no parcels listed, so
There was very little information that was sent out, and that was sent out by the lawyer that is being contracted for handling this. We were just talking about that in our office there, that, doing this by committee, we, since the lawyer was up there, we left that to the, Cavalier County handled a lot of that, feeding it to them, and after seeing it come out, we should have had it sent out to everybody, so we could have gotten a little bit more information on it for everybody. That's created a pretty big swamp of phone calls with everybody that got the ballot and asking what parcel it's pertaining to.
Right, and I think that leads into the second question, which is, the same farmer said that potentially some of this land that he's voting on would also potentially be in the Lawton watershed.
Right.
Right, so then you potentially are in two different watersheds at the same time
Right,
somehow.
like everybody in the county is in the Channel A watershed. So you can keep adding layers on. So like I've got land that's in the Starkweather, so I still pay the Channel A if there is one, I pay the Starkweather. People that are a mile up the road are in the Hamer Sullivan, they pay the Hamer Sullivan, Starkweather, and Channel A.
Yeah, and I understand that people can double up, I just think that's one of the concerns that's being raised, is that they could get doubled up on it.
Right.
But I just thought I'd pass those two things along because one reached out to me.
The Lawton area, that caused us a lot of discussion as to how to handle that. If you're gonna completely leave the Lawton watershed out of it, that was our first inclination. But then you could say, well, the water's gonna come into it. We went back and forth a lot of ways, and the way it ended up right now, we're with the termination of the Edmore assessment area right at the Sweetwater Lake. So that any water that goes into Sweetwater Lake is going to be assessed for this. But in the end, we thought that was the best way to handle it.
Okay.
And because we had a lot of questions about, the guys in the Lawton area had brought up in the past while trying to get into an assessment, and at that point, it didn't make it there. The board felt there was no chance of it passing, so they could drop it. But,
Lawton is in now,
right, the Lawton is included in it. Right
you're
now.
all right with it, generally.
I feel that everybody that's in it, that their water comes in, should be included in it.
Right,
It was-
they're all right with it?
Lawton has a lot of different personalities, and I think lots of it.
We'll find out how they vote. Does the lot dump into the Edmore?
Yes, the Lawton dumps in the Edmore, maybe 3 miles from the Sweetwater Lake.
Okay, that's what I thought.
So I think that's the appropriate way to handle it. The way it was talked about was keep them out because there's potentially no votes in that area. That was kind of why we thought that in the first place. I think there's enough votes up on the northern end that are going
I
to
think
for
it'd
this.
be for it.
And honestly, the Lawton area, from what people say in public to what they say to you in private, is a big change in thoughts there too. So I think people are getting more towards the point of we need to manage this water, not fight about it.
So all of the work that's being done now, if this does pass and sets up, is it going to set up an assessment district and that would be able to be used going forward as well?
Right, that's the way, like the other one we did, Snag and Clear, I mean, we assessed the money and paid for the work we've done, and then at that point, the project is ending. So this one will be a full project, it's a clean out project, so we're not changing any structures, we're not rerouting water, taking hooks off that people were asked about, it's just cleaning out exactly what is there. And from this point, if it passes, the votes will be counted by the end of the month. We'll probably start spraying cattails this year yet if it passes.
And I would assume that this is a forever assessment?
That's I guess I've never seen where there's a sunset clause on any of these assessments that we have, so it should be there for life.
And then once the initial project is done, those assessment values will change?
Right, after the original cost is paid for at that point. The way we've been doing it is the water board has been figuring out what work needs to be done and, you know, just charging a small amount to keep some money in there as a operating fund for it. Like the circular Hamer Sullivan that we had, they actually did have an assessment on them for close to 15 years after the original was paid off. And then when we started cleaning, then we put some money back on, so we've got fund built up. I think what we'll do going forward is we won't drop it completely off, just so people can still see that it's on there, you know, maybe go down to like 10 cents a year, just so that that line item is still on there and everybody understands that they're in that assessment area.
You've got good participation from the Edmore Community Group.
Yes, you know, when we first did this, we put up 25,000 to our board, and we said that we require $25,000 put up for the landowners. We have 32 people sign the petition. The majority of them put up money up front, and you know, that money will get returned to them. If it passes, we'll pay it back to them. But otherwise, they're out if it doesn't pass, and we've got a fairly large bill with the engineers to pay for it if it doesn't pass. So we counted for that in our board that we've got money on hand to pay for it.
They're pretty much for it.
Pardon me?
They're pretty much for it.
Yes, everybody that's in that Edmore area is, I mean, they see the damage that this does up. So we really haven't found too much opposition to this. I'm sure there's a few people that, when it comes time to put their vote down, they'll be against it, but we haven't found any organized effort against it.
Is there any verbiage in the plan to where you're gonna start the project? So that it's not started at the top and works its way down? That it starts at the bottom and works its way top?
The way the engineer has looked at it, he wanted to start in probably 3 different areas, so that you don't open up the whole thing at once, get silt roads come down. The parts that need it the most have wetlands in them. A lot of them probably won't be able to be worked on other than in the winter time when you haul the dirt out of the wetland physically. So about a month ago, I drove around trying to see as much of the channel as I could. And honestly, the Edmore channel is in fairly good shape other than about 4 to 5 miles southeast of Edmore, where it's just lowland, it's almost a marsh with cattails. That's the spot that's causing the problem. But again, that's wetlands that we have to deal with. So after talking with the engineer recently, we'll probably be concentrated on having, you know, just like one hole going along, fixing small spots, corners and stuff that need to be fixed on the lower channel, and trying to work on that Edmore area as much as we're allowed to with all the alphabet agencies that are going to be involved. So there probably won't be any work in Cavalier County until we get, you know, the slower stuff done. We're not gonna be forcing water down on the guys that are stuck in the middle.
Is there any idea from the engineer of any additional water, or how much quicker the water that's up there will flow down into the?
Well, that's the first question that comes up whenever we talk to anybody about cleaning ditches. Obviously, the cattails will be out that the water can move, but since we're not changing the structures, the water, unless it tops over a road, which it has many times in the past, won't come any faster than it had. What we did find on the Starkweather when we cleaned that was a major question we faced, is that we're gonna be making this channel, this water's gonna come out of Cavalier County so much faster. But what has happened is that the water can flow along the bottom of the channel instead of having to build up until it can go over top the obstructions. And it just moves so much easier that there's been less flooding on the Starkweather since it's been cleaned. And I can say that personally, that I've got land at the bottom that always floods when the Starkweather used to come out, and it has not come out of its bank since it was cleaned. You know, only 3 miles from the bottom of it, so I'm right where you should be having problems if you're gonna have any. So just keeping that bottom of the channel clean is a allowing the water to move so much more efficiently that it's not causing as much damage as it used to.
And that water that's coming down from, Cavalier County through the Edmore lot, and where does that water all end up?
So that water hits into the Sweetwater Lake, comes out, goes around by Webster and into the end of the northeast side of Dry Lake, where it comes down Channel Bay into Devils Lake. And if we can get the Edmore passed, I think it'll be encouraging some of the landowners on the bottom end of it, where it comes out of Sweetwater to Dry Lake, to look into it. Starting an assessment area right now, the joint board controls that channel. And if you really pay attention to it, it's starting to need work in it too. So if we can get the water coming into the lake efficiently, we need to be able to get the water out of that lake efficiently also.
Any concern from the landowners on the downstream side of things that are impacted or flooded from the excess water?
Oh, we haven't heard a whole lot. There's guys around the lake, Sweetwater, Morrison Lake area that have concerns. They had concerns before this all started, but after they heard that we're working to bring water in, they expressed a few more, and that's why I've been bringing up to them that we need to get that area into an assessment area so it can also be cleaned out. And going forward, I guess that's going to be our kind of our talking point is we've got water coming in, we need to maintain all the channels. If you're concerned about it coming from the top, we need to be concerned about how it leaves there and make our best effort to take care of it.
Well, thanks for the information, I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. I would like to say to Kevin, after going out on a water complaint or issue yesterday, we were out going around looking at culverts and comparing sizes. If you have any chance to have anybody go through some of your bigger culverts, that would be a great time to be doing it. We were looking through one that's, it was 70-inch culvert, so it was a big one, and we go looking, and that road is caving in over top of that culvert, or they're forcing them down. And, it's probably been 20 years since we could look into some of these culverts. It would be a great time if you had labor to spare to look at some of the older ones.
We're fixing one, just like you're saying.
And right now, we do have, working with Kevin has been going well over the last few years. Right now, we have a bridge replacement he had brought up, and we were gave some culvert size recommendations, but landowners had some concerns and brought it to us, so we've been working with Paul, found out that there was problems with their stream crossing analysis that the state had given us. It's much too small. I think they're gonna replace a 24-foot bridge with a 36-inch culvert. When we looked at it, we said, well, we'll trust the engineer, but we'll probably double the size. Now when we get looking at it, there's 372-inch culverts north of this culvert. And we're talking about putting 2 36-inch culverts in to handle that flow. So we're revisiting that. Gonna be working with the other guys here to hopefully not cause issues to anybody, but still keep in mind the cost of all these structures that somebody's got to pay for.
Bottom line, the state analysis isn't always perfect either.
Yeah, it took a couple of conversations with Paul until that moment hit that, they didn't account for all the water that was coming. So it's good that we have people here that can figure out the problems before we get into them too deep.
And that snaking and clearing project with Nelson County, that is completed?
They're still doing a little bit of work on it. Talked to the contractor 2 weeks ago was the last time I had contact with him. He said they're opening up the final sloughs on the north end, some of them are 200-300 acres. He said as dry as it was, the water they'd open up the water and it would flow downstream a half mile, and everything was just evaporating and sucking into the ground. So this was the exact best year to have a project like that go on. The water that was being released isn't able to cause any damages. So they're going back now and going further into some of the sloughs that they released earlier, but so far, there's no water from the top. It's made it down past the wildlife sloughs that are in the middle of it. And they have a controlled outlet height on them. And so we're hoping to work a little better with the Fish and Wildlife in the future, and maybe them seeing the benefit of being able to refill some of the wildlife areas now that they're going dry also.
Any other questions for Brian while he's here? Anything else about the food that Brian, that we should know?
Oh, that, I mean, I'm sure you're hearing some comments from landowners now, and I wish that we would have been in a position that information wasn't all included on it like that. That's made a lot of extra work for the office staff to answer all the extra questions that didn't need to be asked. I guess from that point, I don't have anything else on that other than that, but we are going to be offering our someone a position in our office to run the office, so we're deciding on that right now, so hopefully we'll get back up to full staff and be able to answer the public's questions a little bit better than what we have been this year.
Anybody else have anything to Brian?
I think it is.
Sheriff Nelson, welcome.
Morning.
How are you this morning?
Good.
You guys busy over the 4th? No.
Nothing too major, just busy.
Just busy. Well, thank you and your staff for all the work that you guys do. And all the time and working holidays and nights and those kind of things, so appreciate you guys. Budget page 16. Anything you wanna point out, Steve?
The only thing we really changed was we took out a capital outlay. That's where the payment for the search and rescue building was coming from for the last 5 years. We finally completed that. So Candy and I kind of sat down and visited and decided that this might be the opportunity we move that to my vehicle cost and maintenance line. We moved $70,000 out of there. And that is intended specifically for replacing radios in the next 2 years. We figured that would be the best way to do it without having to really expand our budget dollar-wise. Since that money was already allocated in there. But this is an expense that's coming and we know it, and I'm gonna buy as many as I can next year with that money. And then we'll probably have to carry it over to another year to finish.
How many radios are you gonna be able to buy?
Well, we bought 4 last summer for 25 grand. So, I need 14 more. So you can kind of see where this is an issue of a lot of money, and that's kind of what's been concerning me, but. And then we also have to look ahead a little bit, that we're gonna have programming costs, installation costs, reprogramming costs. Because even if we program them for today, once they flip the switch to the Siren 2020, we gotta reprogram them to the new system, which we aren't sure what that cost is yet. Because it'll all be a different everything. So we're not trying to jump too fast, but I'm guessing I should be able to get more than half of what I need this next year if that money stays there. And then we should be able to get the other portion the following year. Yeah, I think we're on schedule for 2023, 22, 23 to be implemented. So we're right on the.
On the first page, drug task force, you have 0 there?
Okay, there was just a financial thing going on there. There's two line items for drug task force in my budget. One says city, one says county. Okay, we zeroed out the county line, and that's just because it was in there twice. So it's actually reducing my budget by 50-some thousand. Because it was already put in the county line city at 95,000, which covered that 50-some thousand that used to be in the county line item. So we just zeroed the county line item because it's already been paid for with the city line item. That makes sense?
And we did that last year, we did that
Well, no, it's in my budget for this current year, but we fixed it for next year. So we should have a $55,000 balance in there at the end of the year. So that we just return back to. Did I explain that right, Ken? Okay.
We're not reducing our.
We're not reducing anything, we just found out there was an error, and it's in there twice, so
We're not reducing our drug task.
no, we're not. In fact, we need to go the other way if we do, but anyway, not yet, no, we need that, trust me, but we just found out that there was an extra dollar amount in there that was in there twice. So we just.
I got it.
We just took the one out.
I got it.
Okay.
I was just concerned about reducing our
Oh,
drug
God,
task
no.
force.
No, they're doing fantastic, and thank you very much for doing that last year, because they are busy, and there's not slowing down.
They're busy.
Yes, they are.
So we'll take the 55 grand and use it to someplace else.
Absolutely. It was just there.
Probably the state's attorney or the.
At this point, I don't know. I don't think so. I think we're doing okay. But again, I'm gonna approach the other counties to step up if we need more, because they missed the ball. I think they missed the ball last time.
Oh, question.
And we stepped up, you guys stepped up and they helped us and we needed it. And I think if we need more, then we're gonna have to go back.
Should Ramsey County designate you to go visit with these other counties?
You don't have to designate, I'll just go do it. I'll just do it, because it's important to me. I mean, that's a huge move. I mean, they're doing lots of things that taking a lot of the burden off of what we used to do ourselves. It's huge, and they're busy. They're not.
You're gonna get on their agendas for the next
I can.
meeting this month?
Oh, this month, you want me to do it this month? I don't know if I can make it.
They're doing budgets the same time we're.
I don't think we're gonna get it by next year, but. And then we have to decide if they're gonna have another position, or are they just gonna take over the 1/2 that we have, we have 1.5 right now.
Keep us informed.
Yeah, I'll try to get on as many, I suppose I can just turn my lights on and drive from Eddy County to Langdon, if I want to go. No, I'll try
You
to
can
do
ride
something.
with me, I don't need lights.
Spread all the back roads, right? All I take. No, I will, we haven't talked about it this year, and everybody's kind of, so it'll probably be news. I don't know if we'll make it this year, but I think right now we could be okay I think we need to start planning ahead for a year later, maybe.
This is by far one of the most serious problems we have in our community.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's out of control.
It's out of control. You're exactly right.
We need to address it.
And we're starting to get some big, you don't hear about them because they're working with them, and it's not a big press release item we want to do, because that saves the integrity of what they're doing. Because once, let's say I catch somebody with a bunch, we're trying to use them to go down the line. So that's why you don't hear a lot about in the media of, oh, we had a big drug arrest, as we try, we're working with that, trying to go deeper and bigger, and we're starting to do a lot of seizures, we're getting a lot of money, which all goes back to that asset forfeiture fund. So, which that also helps us with, for them, with some extra funding for equipment, training and things, so, they're busy. We are not gonna bargain, and so all in mind, we are not gonna reduce that anyway. The only way we're going is more, whatever way we can.
Thank you. Thank you for your diligence.
I know they appreciate the support, because Travis always says, we don't have we're still fighting some of the smaller counties, but I don't know why. I will work on them, and I will, might take me a little bit, I don't want to get it done this year. I think we need to plan for a year from now.
If you need some help to go to the smaller counties, I'll go with you.
Okay. We could maybe do it before September, but that doesn't help us, because they gotta have their finals in like first of August.
First meeting in September.
And then you can only go down from there, right? Once your preliminary is approved.
We gotta do it this month.
Yeah, so I don't think we're gonna make it this month. But I'll definitely start working on that again. Other than that, I didn't change anything else in our budget except maybe a couple of little adjustments for like gas prices. Kind of hard to, that's a big expense for us. And if it goes up to $3 or $4, we kind of creates a big issue as far as dollar wise.
Pretty much just have to eat it, right?
Pretty much. And we don't have much
The
control over it.
The sheriff's truck isn't very scary if it can't chase you.
Oh, he's sitting at the stop sign, he's got a mileage restriction. Trust me, we've been through that before where we told him to slow down. It's really not very effective, so, but that might be the only other thing that I didn't really change much else. Other than that, one line that capital outlay came, we took that money out, put it for raises, so. We're starting to work on that, and we'll try to get that going.
No, we don't need more deputies.
This
Nobody's told you we needed more deputies.
Let me get the ones I got going and see what we can, they're doing good though, they're really, that was a very needed assistance for us, because we're actually okay. I mean, we're still a little strapped at times, but.
Been able to hire enough deputies?
Yes, I'm still short one, but that's another issue, it's not because of,
It's not because of funding.
no. It's a personnel issue, so things going on, but anyway. Hopefully we'll have that filled, hopefully here come 1st of September, and then we should be back to full strength. We'll go from there.
A little over $200,000 increase from last year,
For,
your budget overall.
well, because I never had a number.
The total from 883 and 472 to 1,091,990. And I would assume that the big portion of that is the extra deputies that we did last year, and then 160 for the vehicle radios. That's
That'd be most of that for this year's budget.
right.
Yeah.
And
That was a big expense this last year.
so,
You don't realize all the things that go along with the one position. I did. I'd be surprised still, so. We're doing okay though, I think.
well, good. Like Commissioner Brown said, if you need any additional, let us know.
Will do.
Thank you. Any other questions for Sheriff Nelson?
Thanks, Sheriff.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Any additional business? We move on to now. Candy, ready?
You might have to increase your rent, like,
Your rent.
See.
What?
Your rent.
Sorry.
your rent.
I think it went up in, LEC's budget.
Oh. Okay, guess they don't tell me those things.
And you may have to increase that.
Okay. That's one of those line items that I really don't have any control over, or no. That's just kind of in my budget, because it's our, I don't really. Do much with that.
Somebody else.
Hmm?
You're starting to sound like somebody else.
Oh. Is that good or bad?
I would say.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
We'll make those necessary adjustments.
Okay.
All right, under new business, we have a discussion on park board property. Right across from where Joe's Sports Center or Ready Mix is, Jerry Gilbertson had a house there back in the 70s, burned down in 84. His daughter is looking to acquire some additional property that belongs to the park board. And a lot of pictures in there. I thought it would be a pretty good thing to be able to do.
Can I ask you a question? Yep. I guess I'm kind of confused on this. The park board owns the parcel,
Yeah.
Yes.
so why do we have to approve it?
Well,
Because
Okay.
there's documentation that says we sold the parcel to the park board in 1935 or something like that.
but there's verbiage down below that says. I'm gonna try and read.
So there's something in the contract from way back then.
Yes.
Because I looked at it and said, isn't this just the park board should just sell this directly to this?
Yeah,
I
there's
must have missed that in the contract.
There's verbiage in there that says if
The said
Park
real
board.
estate herein described is deeded to said park board of the city of Devils Lake, must be North Dakota, to be used as an athletic and recreational field and playground. And that in the event that it shall cease to be used for such purpose, the title thereto shall immediately revert to Ramsey County, North
The only way the park board can get rid of it is give it back to us. Right?
That sounds correct based on what you just said.
That or we would have to change the contract language from way back when to say that we're okay with them keeping it and they can sell it. The park board's in the loop on this.
Yeah.
And they're okay with it essentially reverting to us, then us selling it to this individual. Or are we allowing them to sell it?
Or we can just redo the county deed.
Yeah.
You do. You do it correctly.
State's Jerry look at it?
He did, and that's why I was wishing he was here.
Yeah, that's what I was
The
wondering.
way you just read it, I'd say it's gotta be put back to the county. County can do what they want with it. County didn't sell it to the park board, for them to sell it to somebody else.
Well, and it's just sat there forever, hasn't it? It's never been a athletic field or.
No.
My guess is they must have thought way back when that they were probably thinking they had for utilization purposes to put a park there or something, it just never occurred.
Well, it was long before the US highway came.
Yeah.
I
They were
would
just,
have
they were just thinking, we'll plan ahead type of deal.
That's why nothing's been done with that property forever, it's just been sitting there.
Well, in
Why?
1935, they probably thought Devils Lake would be 50,000 people by now, and be a good place to put a park. There's a neighborhood there.
It's spot for a convenience store.
Does that line up with other ball lanes?
No, it's across the road on the south side.
By Dave's Motel.
Yeah.
In my settings.
No, it's past.
It's past.
It's the furthest to the west, right across from where Joe's Sports Center's last turn onto their property.
Stefan has a property to the east of that.
Yeah.
And by putting them together, then they have the ability to put something on.
A bigger convenience store. They don't have a bigger convenience store.
Well, I think what's indicated is that the guidelines say that it's too small of a lot to put anywhere on it.
How big does the lot get? If you got the
Do
additions?
you have that?
It's about 160 by 200.
Now, the other lot says that.
This map is over here.
Here. This is, so they're trying to get this.
Well, they're taking this right here, and this is all, they have this right here, and this is all. Yeah. Yeah. Unless they sell.
Yeah, what's on the plan? They're trying to purchase it. You know.
Yeah.
Right now, nothing.
Bev, you have any recommendations for us?
I guess if the county's not gonna use it, I would suggest giving it back to the park board. They plan on selling it if it's given back, is what
Can't
I
give it back to them.
Yeah, it's for the legally,
You can do it correctly, please,
we have to do that.
without that terminology on there.
Yeah, we could just, that's what I'm saying, there's two options.
They're let the state attorney look at it.
They either let it revert to us, and then we have the option to sell, or we correct the deed and allow them to sell.
One thing that should be noted is, in that description, it gives is it 60-foot thing? The next document I saw in the series says 50 feet. There's a, yeah, the next document, I can't remember who did the next document, it said it decreased the size of that lot. By another document that on the north side of that property, they sold that and they added more land into there than what actually they should have.
Well,
The highway got some of it.
given all of this seeming uncertainty, I motion that we table this and allow
Yes.
the state's attorney and the auditor to come up with a corrected deed. And if one is impossible, then we can discuss other options.
There's really nothing we can do until we know
We gotta know what
the legality of it.
And we gotta know what we have, gotta know what you're selling.
Yeah, we sell it static.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea, we place it revenue.
We have a motion to table it and allow review from state's attorney and auditors to come back with a.
Corrected deed if one is possible, and if not, then we can discuss other options.
If you can't do corrected deed, you have to declare it surplus and put it up for auction.
I think only if the park board said that they for sure didn't want it, right?
Yes. They would have to call it.
Got that, Kenny?
Yep.
All right. All right, motion and a second to do a corrected deed if possible and take things from there. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. We've done the joint powers with the district health for HR, special permit. Application to sell alcoholic beverages at a. Motion and a second to approve the special permit. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Approve the surplus property list. The basement is full of junk.
So there's some trash cans.
Move to approve.
Second.
Sometimes the time and effort to put these things together is far outweighs the benefit of the revenue that we receive from them. We have a motion and a second to approve the surplus property. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Standing committee for the North Dakota Association of County Commissioners. I think was it last week? Time is flying. That we had a meeting with Northeast 9, and the ACO President Stan Dick, as well as Terry Trainer, reminded us about these standing committees. And the survey monkey that had gone out, that we could go in and do it on an email. There's 3 different standing committees that they're looking, well, 4 different, I think 5 different. No appointment necessary for the additional legislative and constitutional bylaws committees, but audit committee, nominating committee, and resolution committees for the Association of County Commissioners. If anybody's interested in serving on those, is that one from each county or is that one from the region? I think it was.
I think it's one per region.
But anyway, they are turned in by Wednesday, July 14th. We've got a mailing address there.
If I remember right, this is just 1 year.
Yeah.
That's right, it's just between now and the next meeting.
Yeah.
That's usually between now and the October conference.
And while we're mentioning that, conference registration, I think, opens today, October 3rd through the 5th. Is when that's scheduled, the NDACO conference. So we should reschedule our October meeting, and those interested, please let Candy know and get that registration taken care of.
Would we like to move our October meeting to that Thursday or the following Tuesday or what?
No, it's because it's budget, so probably that Thursday.
So we have to move from the 5th to the 7th then.
They scheduled that conference for the first Tuesday in April.
They always do. Always do. Yeah, always.
Depends on the venue.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's, so they can get the specifics done. So we have to move it to the 7th. I'll make the motion that we change our first meeting of October, move it from the 5th to the 7th at 8 a.m.
Second.
Motion and a second that we reschedule our October meeting from the 5th to the 7th, 8 a.m. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. While we're on the Association of Counties, they will be doing their President's Tour and visiting Ramsey County on the 23rd of July, I believe. Is that from like 2 to 4?
21st.
Isn't it 21st?
I think 21st.
Wednesday, the 21st? Okay.
Starts at 3.
Starts at 3. Okay. So, and Kevin could maybe, you've been on those tours before, correct?
Yeah, but they basically just want your input of what, if there's any changes that the association needs to make, or you can have legislative concerns heard at that time, and they'll work on those thoughts.
So they like to visit the offices within the building as well?
If there's time.
If there's time?
Yeah.
So we'll make sure that we do an extra little spit shine. And welcome the President's Committee to come in and tour Ramsey County Courthouse. So I think that's one of the highlights that they'd like to show off is county's buildings, so.
They generally hold a meeting first and then a tour after.
Right. So we need to schedule probably a larger meeting room
has.
Sure. Maybe the basement or. Okay. First. All right. Next item in the packet was a notice from the North Dakota Water Resource District Association, summer meeting, July 13th through the 14th. Tour planned on the 15th. This will be down at the Alara Center in Grand Forks. If anybody's interested in partaking in that. Go ahead and that 21st meeting, I will not be in attendance to. I was asked to represent the Association of Counties on the Legislative Interim Committee on Water Drainage. And they meet in Bismarck on the 21st, is their first meeting. So they're looking at rewriting North Dakota's drainage laws or combining a couple of them together. So I will have to make sure that I get with Kevin and talk about highway concerns and drainage and water before we go through that, but I'm sure the other commissioners and department heads will represent Ramsey County at the president's meeting on the 21st. Next item on the agenda is review billing for bleachers at the Peterson Building, the Ramsey County Event Center. We discussed this back, I think, in maybe our April, May.
We approved $3,000, and what happened is the company that sent it charged them more for the ship. Is what happened. I talked to them, I told her to bring us a candy and we review it, not that we could take care of it, but you might not.
Motion, Andy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Second.
Yes.
Moved and seconded to approve the invoice for the bleachers at the Ramsey County Event Center. $32.65.89 was the total. The bleachers came in at under $3,000, but freight was just about $500, so. That'll do it. Roll call, please.
Wakefield. Brett.
Oh,
wait, you last. Sorry. Volk. Lightcon.
Aye.
Brown. Brett.
Aye.
I was reading letters, sorry.
That's all right. Approved letter of transfer.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion and a second to transfer $325,181.74 from the general fund to the law enforcement center fund. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Visitors and delegations. Mr. Johnson, you got anything for us today?
Fishing has no boundaries, and I guess I'll be in their announcements maybe, but fishing has no boundaries, says, their fishing event Friday and Saturday and Sunday this weekend. So it's really marina, so if anybody's got a boat and wants to spend a couple days off, people get on the lake, but otherwise they can do it, we'll be there.
10th and 11th, the dates on those?
Yep.
All right. Portfolios. Commissioner Whiteline, we want to start with you over there.
Yeah, everything's been fairly quiet. state's attorney, I visited with Bo about his budget. Going forward, I think we're gonna be looking at possibly, I don't know if he's started in yet, but possibly a little bit of an increase there to add some staff. The caseload has just been, I mean, going back to what we're talking about with, drug task force, the caseload is just exponentially increasing. It's just, you showed me some of the numbers of this year over last year, and even the year before, it's just insane the caseload, what's going on. So I think we're gonna have to probably help them onboard some staff up there so that they don't get swamped. Had a good discussion with him about that. Obviously, along with that, there's gonna possibly be the need for some additional space for the state's attorney's office, just because they're off each other already. We've already subdivided offices in there. So, but that's a long-term discussion, but something that we're thinking about. Extension office, we had a close retirement party last Thursday. Very well attended. Sad to see him go, but we've talked about it many times. I believe his regional director was there. Thought she was talking about maybe coming in. Must have been able to make it to the next meeting to talk about our path going forward. So we'll have to start thinking about that as well, and how we're going to set up a hiring committee, or however extension goes about doing that. We'll get some input on that at the next meeting. For Devil's Lake, we meet tomorrow, so I'll have some information for the next meeting possibly. County Housing Authority, we've been going through trying to add some staff. I haven't talked to Tim for a week or so, so I don't know if we got our people hired, but we had a couple of people that were looking at hiring to add on to staff. Social services, we did not meet last month. We will be meeting, I believe, next week. So that could be anything else. Other than that, highway, just keep chipping away. It's summer, get stuff done. That's all I've got, I think.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Volk.
Lake access, we didn't meet last month. Yeah, it was a meeting. The fair board, Cory phase went well. And we have a meeting coming up, talking about the rodeo and stuff, to see if it will work in a while. And the quarter treasurer, big thing was put stuff in ditches. And treasurer, the last thing we did was the money transfer.
Mr. Brown, you have anything?
Yeah, Jill's. A lot of inmates in there, I don't know, 99 still down there. And I made a trip to Carrington on Thursday. They were holding and not ready to go. Kind of a depressing crowd, I guess. Hot Friday, everybody remembers. And RMA was there. And there. This seemed like they got a lot of questions about the one this crop released. Nothing to happen. The rain, I'm sure will be more prolonged. I mean, I don't have a problem with it. A lot of people need. Big crops needed, you know, where there's no crop. Very hard to know this that way, so. But they didn't get much satisfaction, they didn't say much. Good crowd, big crowd.
Releasing any federal lands for hay or grazing?
CRB, they're release date is what they're already.
I'm so big.
I think it's gonna get pushed out in the second of August, that's my guess. There wasn't, like I said, much satisfaction from the official, but they're only tried to prod them a little bit. Coring. They had a good group of people, I mean, those a lot of recommendations. In the whole states. But like I said, it's a hot Friday, everybody remembers.
Well, thank you for going down and.
Yeah, I guess that's all I know. And talk about social service.
LEC, we had that meeting with the city on this, last month. We're scheduled for another one coming up on the 16th of July. So I'm not sure if we wanna, I know we're not meeting again before then. If we need to do any adjustments or brainstorming between now and then.
I'm open to suggestions. I think we all can safely say we didn't feel it very well.
Yeah, I mean, I guess from my opinion, I think I know where we stand. I think, you know, and I think coming away from that meeting, I think the city just has to make a determination on what they want to do going forward. I mean, the ball's kind of in their court, but in my opinion, at this point, I mean, we all know that the cost of running the LEC is gonna exponentially keep moving upwards. I mean, especially if we continue to pick people up, the state's attorney's numbers keep continuing to rise, we know it's gonna cost more money. The only, you know, we've talked about in the past, well, you know, shipping people other places, and that's just a non-existent option. We have to have law enforcement centers, so it's gonna cost us money to run it, we know that. We are just looking at the budget, we're looking at the possibility of additional $300,000 next year. It's like, over the top of that, you know, we're going from 1.4 to 1.7, you know, it's cost more money. I mean, I think our options are, I mean, it all comes back to the same concept of, you know, not between us and the city necessarily, but just long-term funding options. That, you know, we're a hub community, we catch more people in this community than just live in this community. So we have to continue, I think, to work on the state and say, it's no different than the concept of what's different, but very similar to the concept of social services, and that the state needs to step up and start sharing some of the cost. I mean, 70% of our budget outside of, well, goes to state's attorney, sheriff, and people in jail, outside of roads. It's getting to be ridiculous.
It is, no question.
Yeah.
$115 a month.
Yeah, and we just keep, and the problem with it is we continue to talk about, you know, the escalated costs, but we're really doing nothing to solve the problem. We're just rolling the circle, and we need to talk about the state, and we need state funding long-term to help do treatment, rehab, all of those things. We try to do stuff through the reentry center, things like that. Those cost money. And then we try to ask for an increase for the reentry center. The state, they won't even grant an increase if we're sending people in there and trying to do the right thing. And it's costing us money to help over every day to hold the people that they have and try to do the right thing to make sure they don't come back again. So it's just frustrating, but I guess from the perspective of us in the city, they just have to do what they want, I guess.
Only to add there, when I was at the law enforcement center the other day, Ross told me he talked to Swanson, our lawyer, and he was looking into agreements around the state. The county that has the jail and the city, I don't remember which ones he was talking about, but agreements for housing prisoners the city brings in, you know. I don't know the particulars about them, but Rob said they, you know, reasonable. I mean, there was nothing. Getting thrown around the other day, $200 charge or whatever. No, I mean, I'm sure the county had no interest in doing that. Like Adam said, I mean, this has been on the table to us, you know, for quite a while. And I think I agree with Peter there that they want out. If they want out, that's fine.
I think, like you said, I mean, we're not going to put the screws to anybody, but at the same time, we have to cover costs. So you'll have to have an idea if they decide that that's the route they want to go, what the costs are, and we'll have to set up a reasonable dollar figure for what we rate. A reasonable dollar figure for what we think the daily rate is, and then there'll have to be some type of parameter within the contract if that's the route it ends up happening with a percentage either way, saying, there might have to be some type of bump bill at the end of the year or something like that if our costs come in over our projection. direction of what our daily rate will be and go from there, I guess, but hopefully they come up with a determination what they wanna do.
Yeah, well, my 2 thoughts are, it has not been helpful that the city continues to maintain such an adversarial relationship with the county. I don't see who it benefits, I don't understand why, we're essentially on the same team here. But if they want out, they want out. And there's only so much sort of hand-holding that you can do with them before you have to say, okay, there's the door. If you wanna walk through it, go ahead. So that's kind of my opinion. The only thing that I did want considered as a potential change to that agreement as written was you're handing over all of this power to essentially invoice all the counties. We're all members, but we all just get an invoice. It's not something that we get to really budget for in the way that we did, according to what I was reading that agreement. I'm hoping that we can add a provision in there where if you got a majority of the membership, in the event of something really unforeseen happening, a majority of the membership to essentially revert back to budgeting. Right, because you're ceding all of the power from all the members to the board, which is fine. But if for whatever reason, all of the member counties did not feel that the board was doing the right thing by those member counties, that you could revert the budgeting authority back out to the member counties through like a majority vote of the entire, all of the counties. Does that make sense?
I've always, I guess it's not a legally binding thing, but I've always viewed it as, the budgeting authority, yes, lies at the county level. But we've always entrusted the individuals from this commission to go sit on that LEC board to do the budgeting. And when they come back with a number, we say, okay, that's what we're gonna have to live with, and we go with it. Now, under the provisions of the new agreement, does it change where the power lies to a point? Yeah, I agree it does somewhat, but it still, to me, functions essentially the same exact way. In that, if we don't wanna pay for it, then I guess we don't pay for it, but then we're in arrears. No different than we've been in the past. We're gonna pay the bill regardless, so. But I understand, maybe there's a way we could put language into the provision that essentially still makes it function essentially the way it does now, but I think there's just so much up in the air in terms of how we're going to function this thing if the city decides they don't want to be a part of it anymore.
Well, at that point, you basically may as well rewrite the whole.
Well, and that's what I'm essentially getting at. If the city decides they don't want to be in it anymore, then at some point in time, we'll have to have that discussion with the other counties on how they would like to handle it going forward. Do they want to stay in a joint powers agreement, or do they want to go simply to a daily rate? Or that's a lot of hypotheticals being thrown out there, but until the city again makes their mind up on what they want to do.
I don't think there's any question
Or
why
the
the
air.
didn't stay. They really have no other alternative.
Well, I think they're gonna.
Want to hold them over the barrel, and I would.
No, I think they're gonna stay, but my question is, do they want to continue to function as a joint powers agreement with the board, or would they want us to just run the thing and bill charge? Do they not want the hassle anymore? So I think it all hinges on what the city wants to do. And the problem we're gonna run into at this point, I guess budgeting doesn't necessarily function the joint powers agreement because we'll budget accordingly. It's gonna cost so much to run the jail, we're gonna put the money in, we're gonna put the figure in the budget. But we have to come to a conclusion at some point in the near future here so we can have the discussion on how we're going to function this thing going forward. If there's gonna be a drastic change.
I certainly think it benefits the other entities involved in the LEC instead of just sending their prisoners there to have a seat at the table and be part of that board. I think that's the best benefit all the way around.
Well, I agree completely.
Something like that. And so it would certainly behoove, because I don't know if we want to just sit back and say, okay, well, if the city wants to be out and they just want to pay a daily inmate cost or what have you, then they have no seat at the table. I think that would be a very big mistake on their part.
I agree. I don't disagree, but that's their choice to make.
It's certainly their choice to make.
I would like to see the joint powers continue. if the city wants out, they want out, but with the other counties still having a voice in what's occurring.
I think they're a very valuable part of the decision-making process. So,
But I think we need the city's commitment by the end of this next meeting. I know that's kind of the intention anyway, but I don't think we can leave it and say, okay, what did we learn here today? Nothing. You know, you really need to know, are you gonna be okay with this? Because otherwise, we're gonna keep ending up in this stupid limbo spot that we seem to end up in all the time.
And that's the thing, we have to have a solid commitment going forward, or a solid saying we're no longer functioning as part of this, because we continue to run back to the same place where who's gonna budget, where's the money gonna come from, and it's just, it seems like we've been having, not this specific conversation, but some variation of this conversation for quite a while.
Right.
I think Lucas used the key word here, limbo. And I agree with him, it's been in limbo for quite a period of time. I'm not gonna put years on it at all, but it's way longer than I think it should, I know that. It makes it difficult on the board to, see where you're at every month, support, working, not.
Yeah, and I think that our focus should be making sure we have a committed partner in the city, and the details of that partnership are secondary. Yeah. You know, that it's like, we need to go in there and find out the answer. Because I'm sick of asking the question across the table, well, are you guys in or out? And then mumble. You know, it's like, tell us what you want to do. You know, what's it gonna be? Anyway.
I'm sure glad we're having this discussion. It was a discussion we needed to have.
Yeah.
I didn't want to instigate it by any means.
No, well, and the part of it is like like you said, we all know where we're at. I think this board has been there back in the LEC for pretty much forever. I mean, our bill has gone from, I think the first year I was on the commission that we budgeted, the first budget year that I sat on the commission, 15, we were at $432,000 or something like that for the LEC. Now we're gonna be at 1.7. I mean, so we stepped up and said, we're gonna make sure we take care of what needs to be taken care of. So we just have to get a solid commitment one way or the other.
I don't understand this. Do they have a plan to do something else? Because if we just charge them up front, they're gonna pay the same money either way. Like no voice. Likely pay more. And with no voice. Right, of course. What I don't understand is, it just, to me, feels like they have another plan that they're not telling.
I don't think they do. From what I've talked about, the people that are the most opposed to it, they just see the big number all the time, and in their head, in the back of their head, something they haven't fully fleshed out is somehow it's gotta be cheaper somewhere else, and we can figure it out. We should just gotta.
I don't care if they take the rugby or transport.
Right, they're never gonna be able to save any money.
They're gonna run them on the road.
But
and then
there's no money saved.
I mean, there's gonna, I mean, they don't like the fact that they're paying rent for a building. I understand that, but hypothetically, if the police department wasn't there, you'd be renting it to somebody else. So there's gotta be rental agreement to the function of the building.
I mean, it's all
gonna get wrapped in,
It's like,
somehow.
okay, if you don't want to call it rent, what do you want to call it? Goodwill? Like, you just tell people you need it to be called because you gotta pay it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, we can take the $75 and turn it into $85 or $95, but the whole point is that the Benson County Sheriff isn't housed in the law enforcement center. The Ramsey County Sheriff is, the police department is, so we should be paying a fair share of the square footage that's being used by our facility.
It's a separate idea.
Yes, yeah, it doesn't make sense that Benson County should have to pay more at a daily rate when we're the ones housing our sheriff's office there. If you wanna put your police department someplace else, I guess you can, but there's overhead costs there too. So,
We'll just have to see what we see.
yeah,
I
like you
don't
said,
know.
but we have to ask for a commitment, which way you going, so we can plan.
Do we need to, do this next week?
Week from Friday.
I was just trying to come up with an idea of how to make sure we get a final answer, how we do it. I don't know.
We can have that conversation. Hopefully they have this same type of discussion at their meeting tonight. I haven't taken a look at what their agenda looks like. But I know they do meet tonight.
Well, I looked at, they had a meeting not long after we discussed last time, and I assumed they were gonna have that, they're gonna have to have that discussion. And they didn't have it at the last meeting, because I didn't hear anything about it on the news, I guess I wasn't in attendance, but I would have heard about it, I would assume.
Well, Rob, he hadn't even discussed the budget with them. He was at a meeting, and they wouldn't put him on the agenda, and he sat there and he left. So,
Maybe that tells us what's going on.
Right, and I think that in order to get a firm commitment, the way to do it is basically an agreement between the city and the county, which we can hammer out at the time of the meeting, that we will not call into question ownership of the building, ownership of anything in the building, or anything else related to the LAC for 5-10 years.
Right, maybe forever.
Well, no, I know, but you'll never get to do it forever, but just to say, we will hammer out an agreement that we agree that this, the status quo is what it is, or if it needs to be changed, whatever, but that this is not going to come up again.
You're saying you want a commitment for a certain amount of years to say we're not gonna be dabbling around this anymore.
Exactly.
Not for perpetuity, but.
Right, like if you could get 5 or 10 years out of the city to just say, this is not gonna come up, we're not gonna have a conversation about whether or not you're gonna transfer ownership to Ramsey or whatever else.
He's looking for his terms, and they don't deal with it.
Well, 10 years might be enough to cover yours too. If you want, then maybe we fight for 10.
Well, and I think, I mean, you can't game out exactly what's gonna happen in that meeting. I mean, but at the end of the day, if they decide they don't want any more, then what's a fair price? And, you know, there's a lot of questions that need to be answered at that point. They really should.
We got one guy on the board said, oh, $1, and the next guy all upset because he said that. You could see there was some, even internal.
Well, and how do you assess that building? I mean, that happens, there's a whole other.
Well, and I guess we'll just
Can
have
of worms
to,
to
we'll have
open
to
at
see.
that point,
Well,
but
I
yes.
mean, but that's one of those things that we can hammer out if it's obvious that they're heading out the door.
Yeah.
Right. But I think if they're not heading out the door, I think the way that you get a firm commitment, and that we don't end up needing to do a joint meeting where we stare across the table at each other and almost come to blows every year, is let's get them to put some ink on paper that says, once we finish here today, this will not come up for 5 years. I don't know how you put teeth to that, but there's gotta be something.
Well, there's gotta be teeth in the joint powers that says if we're gonna fund this thing, then we're gonna fund it. We're not gonna play this, we're gonna underfund it, and then we'll see what happens, and, well, maybe sometimes we'll pay on time, and maybe we won't, and.
You can't run a business like that. You just can't do that. It's a business, no matter how you look at it. It's a business, yeah.
Well, it's necessary. Yeah. I mean, we can try our best, like Rob said, to try to maybe control costs through certain type of situations, but even controlling costs in this situation isn't necessarily in the best interest of the facility. I mean, I'm not saying you blow money out. What I'm saying by controlling costs is we're having problems hiring. Because now is part of that wage, probably. We saw Cass County already move their wages up because they can't get enough people. Now, I'm not saying we have to be competitive with Fargo, but you have to be competitive with what's occurring in your community. And getting people to work for less than $15 an hour or whatever it is now is getting very, very difficult. Well, if you can work for $15 an hour at a job where you have basically no responsibilities versus a job where we're asking, what, $17.50 to start or something like that, with a ton of responsibility, it's not requisite to what we're asking of people for what we're asking to pay them. I mean, so the cost isn't going down, is what we keep saying here. So how do we? I mean, and I think we've done as best we can over the amount of time we have with the budget we've had. But I want a commitment so we can make more investments into the facility, so we can do better in the facility. Not so we're just skipping along.
Make it safer for us, you know.
Yes. But we gotta know where everybody's at if we're gonna do that. Just that simple.
Well, I think we have to go into the meeting with the attitude that, damn it, we're not leaving until we have an agreement here. I mean, we're gonna have an agreement one way or the other. You're gonna decide to be in or out.
I know, I think that's exactly
And
right.
if we can't get that done in the first 10 minutes, then the meeting needs to last.
I mean, we don't necessarily have to have every single thing hammered out, but we gotta go there.
And I want whatever agreement comes out of that meeting, like I said, we need to find a way to make sure that it lasts, some way to hold them to it, because otherwise, whatever agreement we make, wouldn't be surprising to me at all, if next year we're right back there again. Right, so it's gotta have some kind of.
But they're gonna get charged for jail costs or whatever, I mean, well, if you don't trust us, you wanna look for something else. I just want their court. We know what we wanna do. We're not afraid to take that jail on, I know the county is.
And then still leave some authorization and authority to the LEC board.
Absolutely.
And for purchases that.
Absolutely.
That the city thinks needs to come back to them before purchases being made. Some of that stuff is operational needs that needs to be done.
Well, and I think we've done a pretty good job of that, the board, when there's been a large expense coming back to, I mean, we haven't done any large expense stuff without, I mean, because most of the time what occurs is somebody has to sponsor it, and somebody has to take a loan out on it, so all of the entities that have to talk about it and say they're on board, I mean, when we talk cameras, when we talk anything like that, I mean, it's not like it hasn't been communicated back to us that this is what we're on the siren, what we're on the hook for, this is what we're gonna do. Are we all on board?
So anyway, that meeting July 16th, correct? 8:30? Okay. All right. So as long as everybody's on the same page and have in their calendars, we can move forward and hopefully have a direction before we get there, which way everybody's leaning. So, okay. Commissioner Wakefield, anything on your portfolios?
The only meeting I've had was Dakota Prairie, and everything's going well, and you heard from the sheriff, and about it, so I'll be short and sweet.
All right. I'll keep things short and sweet as well. Airport's going fine. Boardings are increasing as pandemic numbers continue to decline and restrictions continue to decline. Boardings are getting close to those 2019 numbers. Looking at 2020 for comparison, because there really wasn't any. COVID dollars at the airport are moving forward with some different plans and ideas and structures and things like that. So chamber meeting I had to miss, but things are busy at the chamber. They have crazy days coming up at the end of this month. All out last week. I can't remember if they had 100 teams out there for that, but 95. Little down, but I think they opened it up to 125. I think was the number that they looked for, but they're a little down. I see Blaine's participated in that, and good job. What place did you guys finish? Yeah, so good job.
Brown faded.
Yeah.
Pat, I'll tell you that. I'll tell her that that's one thing.
Yeah. So anyway, things are going well. So.
They're doing a Rib Fest.
Rib Fest is coming up, Crazy Days is coming up, we've got a lot of activities planned at the chamber office. Been working with Candy on her budget and staff, and Brian on his, and Chris on his. So budget times is always interesting at the county level. But I would certainly want to thank everybody for their hard work and diligence through the process.
Actually, Mr. Chair, I do sort of have an announcement, but it's more of a question. I know we've got a meeting, but because it's the week before, I'd like to start getting some stuff together for our Employee Appreciation Day. So I have 2 grills that can be used for this. Probably can grill 8 to 10 burgers at a time on both of them together. And I can grill, that's fine. I was thinking I would go and buy burgers, brats, buns and hot dog buns and condiments, maybe a couple bags of chips. And the next question is that I was wondering is, do we want, as the commission, to provide alcohol, or is it alcohol free, or is it the employees bring their own alcohol?
We're gonna do BYOB. We can provide what, pop, lemonade, something like that.
Okay, I just thought I'd ask, but yeah, I mean, I figured we can do that. I can pick all that stuff up.
What day is this again?
23rd.
You get 2 grills enough, you need another one?
Maybe.
I can
It'd
bring mine.
probably help to have 3.
Yeah, I'll bring mine, and I got one of the big flat top ones.
Oh, that'd be really good, because these are
Because I
just
can do-
the circular ones.
So I can do probably 20 burgers in it.
Perfect. Well, then we'd be able to do 40, and that'd be funny.
I got my
Like where?
Yeah.
Because the park is,
When I
that stuff is looked out at here.
Well, couldn't you do it at Ruger? Under that,
What time are we looking at again?
under that high top? Well, it's noon, we agreed to give them the rest of the day off.
Yeah.
Lunch, is that, you know what I'm talking about, right, from Ruger?
Cool. Roosevelt's ought to be all right at noon, right?
Yeah.
We're talking.
Or Roosevelt, we need either one, so it doesn't matter as long as we have a spot.
But the building there, those, like
Oh,
all the buildings.
I don't know that we'll need a building per se unless it's raining. Yes, that's always a
Yeah.
possibility.
Does anybody have the big canopy at Roosevelt one? The big.
It was, like, all that stuff was booked a year in advance.
Even during the day, like I do.
Like, the day that we want, like,
So,
So we don't have a location.
well, okay, so here's,
You guys can all come to my house.
Peterson Arena, the event center, is that what?
it's a variety guy.
Yeah, it'd be a good location.
yeah. Otherwise, I mean, if Peterson Arena's not available, the Memorial Building is that booked? We can use that as our rain site if it rains, if it would rain that day, and then otherwise, I mean, we don't really need a building in any of these parks, right? We can just all show up and may not be anywhere to see. Yeah. I don't think that would be too bad. It's a nice day.
Or could you just use the overhang?
Right here?
No.
That open shelter
There you go.
at Roosevelt.
Roosevelt.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That big one, that's what I was asking. We
Yeah.
could, that's got all kinds of picnic tables and stuff.
Yeah.
We can utilize that, that'd be a good location.
Where they do the farmer's market.
Right across from the phone.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking. We don't need the actual building, if you just got a big area with picnic tables and set the grills up next to it. And there's all kinds of grass next to it and the volleyball courts. Who's gonna have that?
Who do you call, park board?
Okay, good.
Somebody else that ever gave half or whatever.
And I think, employee families also welcome, just so that everybody knows it's on the record.
Well, we're right next to the, playground equipment. If you use that big facility there, you got, like I said, volleyball, you got, volleyball, softball,
Yeah, so I'll start getting together all of the food and drinks and everything, and I'll just sort of let you know where we're at.
You wanna be, I could take charge of like drinks or something if you wanna handle food, I'll handle beverages or something.
That's fine.
Take some of it off the plate then.
Grandkids will.
Of course, absolutely. Everybody. We should probably send out some type of not a survey monkey necessarily, but some type of a concept, just so we have an idea of how many people we're gonna have there. So we don't buy
Yeah, that's true.
not enough burgers or too many burgers or whatever, just so we have at least a thought
I'll
process.
just put on there something so that we get an idea of head count.
Yeah, just so, because we know how many employees we have, but if for people, if for kids, or so we know, at least we got our needs covered.
You might take the employee.
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, then if the
I'm just
employees
saying, but we
get
need
by
to know.
themselves and you multiply by 4, you'd be like, holy cow, we don't.
That's why.
Then Lucas is going home with a lot of
Yeah.
hamburgers.
We've eaten burgers for 8 months.
That's okay,
Roosevelt Park under the big canopy,
If possible.
if possible. If not, I don't know. Can we leave Kelly that to you, Candy, or would you like me to come in?
I won't be here, but I'll figure out this.
That's all I'm saying.
Sorry.
So figure out a place and let me know.
State baseball takes priority.
Baseball.
The 23rd.
Actually, leave the 21st.
You sure?
I'm Babe Ruth. No, we're different.
Okay. We get in trouble.
I'm Babe Ruth
The
baseball.
week before.
I'll find a place.
You play counter, yeah.
Anything else, Mr. Chairman?
I don't think so.
Motion to adjourn.
I got this thing stuff. Got it written down.
Adjourn?
Oh, jeez.